Welcome to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference, empowering the good. And in this case, we're talking about the power of mediation. We're honored to be joined by Sara Figal. She's the executive director of the Nashville Conflict Resolution Center. Sara, how are you doing?
I'm delighted to be here.
Well, you all do so much good. Let's go ahead and start with some context. Give us some history for the Nashville Conflict Resolution Center.
Well, about a little over 20 years ago, a bunch of lawyers got together and said, a lot of people who come to court don't need to be in court, right? And a lot of people who come to court can't afford lawyers and they don't know how to navigate the system anyway. So let's try and figure out how to help them with what the courts call alternative dispute resolution or mediation. And they started doing this on a volunteer basis. And it really took off. We have a couple of Tennessee has a couple of mediation centers across the state. We're the largest at the moment. And I entered the organization as a volunteer, and here I am now, right? It was so compelling. I just kept doing more and more and more. And now the good that we do just gets me up in the morning.
Talk about your team. So when you talk about the specializations, all the expertise, give us an idea of your team.
Sure. Mediators certainly are trained. And, in the state of Tennessee, there's a special curriculum. People who want to be mediators and who want to work in conjunction with courts have to go through a 40 or 46-hour training and then do continuing education. But what some people don't realize is you don't have to be a lawyer to be a really great mediator. And so we draw people who are at a point in their lives where they really can commit to giving back some of their gifts, and train them as mediators to work in, civil court, juvenile court, stuff we do from other, community partners. And I think to be a good mediator, the most important thing is one has to be really curious, because the best thing about mediation is we don't have to judge, right? We're not lawyers, we're not judges, we're not getting to the truth of something. We are positioned to help people in conflict who are really stuck figure out how they can move forward together. So getting to the bottom of things is not what's at stake. Moving forward positively is what's at stake. So learning how to kind of tease out what's most important to people and helping people hear each other and absolutely believing in everybody's best self around a table is what makes a good mediator.
And you, to me, kind of painted a picture about what mediation really is. And I think that's an important kind of mindset to be in terms of what is mediation and the power of mediation, just like you're saying. So much of it is around the relationship value, not necessarily getting to, well, who's right or wrong. It's, okay, how can we move forward together in a positive direction?
Yeah.
Paint the picture of the different cases. Well, go ahead. Go ahead and, dive where you're going to dive, but then paint the picture of kind of the different types of cases or different types of issues you deal with.
Well, they run the gamut. Obviously this kind of mediation, nonprofit mediation, is not about negotiating a huge settlement between corporations, right? We're dealing with individuals. But even something that may seem kind of legally dry, a landlord-tenant issue, right? We mediate so many landlord-tenant cases where tenants have hit a hard time, and we know that, that's for the last few years, that's a real crisis, right? And landlords, some people like to paint them with a broad brush, but they don't like being bad guys. They're invested often in their tenants. And you get people who just are so stuck in a terrible situation, they don't know how to talk to each other anymore. And so while the issue might be landlord needs someone to pay rent, tenant needs somewhere to live and is stuck, the human issue is both people feel terrible about being in this predicament and inflicting the issue potentially causing harm to the other. And so when we bring them into a room and really dig into what has happened and what do they both need, and what are there out of the box ways to think about how to make sure they all get what they need, it's amazing what happens. And people leave feeling like, I mean, we may solve the problem, we may solve part of the problem, but their humanity has been honored regardless. And they leave feeling whole, and they leave feeling connected with each other and respectful of each other. And that has these ripple effects for a community that you just can't even measure.
I know you also work with like neighbor disputes, family
Hmm.
disputes.
Yep.
So talk about some of those
And
efforts.
kids, even kids. I did this beautiful case recently. There were two middle school boys who'd gotten into a fight at school, and it was serious enough that they were brought to juvenile court. Neither of them had been in trouble before. And so the court, I think, often judges realize that what a court can do is effectively punish someone, right? But that wasn't going to help anybody change or grow, or, in this case. So they were sent to mediation, and we probably worked together for an hour and a half. I had a young man and his mom, a young man and his mom, and the kids didn't really know each other, and stuff at school, had churned up, and they'd been egged on by friends. And, we went through all of what happened and why, and better choices they could have made and all that. But the beautiful thing is, because we did all that work, right? And these kids, they showed up for it. Um, at the end, we're writing up an agreement. And one thing that's important in mediation is that, again, I'm not the judge, right? And I don't impose an agreement, right? If the people involved come up with an agreement that they want, that they're happy with, I will scribe it, and I try to use their language, and I say, you tell me if this is what you'd like. I can write it 14 times, right? I want to make sure that you walk away happy that this is yours. I see one of these kids kind of whispering to his mom. I said, okay, kid one, is there something you'd like me to change or add? And he leans forward and he says, well, we didn't really know each other before we had this fight, but now that we've been talking, I was thinking maybe when we go back to school, we could be friends. And maybe we could even write that down. I thought, wow. And so I look, so kid two, what do you think about that? And he said, I like that. It's like, oh my goodness, right? Can you think of any other intervention that could have produced that, where these young men who were in, a pretty big pot of trouble ended there, right? And I'll say their mothers who participated, who came in both in mama bear mode because they had good boys, and, whoever that other kid was must have done something wrong. The boys were able to watch their mothers also talk through this process. And at the end, I said, so young men, you've just done an amazing job today, but I just need to check in with your parents. Is there anything you'd like to hear or say to make you comfortable with how this is going to go forward? And they started talking with each other, talking about our kids, our boys. And so the kids were also able to witness how the adults in their lives got over their positions and really started to share feelings and made a bridge. Again, wow, what other intervention does that? You know?
Yeah, that's awesome. Give us a few things that you wish everyone knew about mediation. So when it comes to, like you were saying, with the agreement and just the process, or even, the end results, like what are
Yeah.
some things you wish everyone knew?
Well, first of all, I wish everyone knew it were available. Most people don't. I wish everyone knew that when they hit some kind of a crisis in life, it could be living with a recalcitrant teenager. It could be, people, the parents or guardians of children in multiple households just can't agree on a parenting plan, or, how they're dropping their children, how they're sharing their children. It could be anything at all. If they are getting to the point they need intervention, mediation it's available. Community mediation is available free of cost for people who can't afford it. We will never turn anyone away based on ability to pay. Courts understand mediation. I wish that more attorneys who represent, workforce folks who know that they don't have a lot of money to spend would remember that there's actually free mediation involved. I mean, if you pay for mediation, you pay a lot, right? And you get great folks, but we also, we're available and we help people solve problems faster and cheaper so they can get back to work, they get back to their families, they get back to their communities without carrying burdens.
Yeah, I think the carrying burdens, the mental side of it is so important to have a quick resolution so that, all sides can move forward in a positive direction, just like you were talking about before.
Yeah, and it's always a resolution. It's like the most radically inclusive part of our legal system. And I tell law students that I teach they should be really proud of this because mediation is the one moment in the legal system that is absolutely driven by the voices of the people involved.
Yeah.
They get to say, yes, this works, or no, it doesn't. And if it doesn't, if mediation doesn't work, no harm, no foul, right? Then it wasn't the right tool. Most of the time it is.
Carry that into how it starts. So your website, reaching out, where does this process start?
Well, most of our cases, and we do a lot of them in a year, right? We may do 700 cases in a year. Most of them come from different courts. They may be civil court, it could be criminal court, it could be juvenile court, a lot of parentage stuff, because increasingly, the judges and the magistrates know that people, particularly if they don't have lawyers, particularly if they can't afford legal teams, they will be better served if they come to mediation, right? They just will. They'll be able to, you can bring anything to the table in mediation, and it's confidential. So it's not like you're standing up in a courtroom, putting all your stuff out there. And so courts will send us these cases. And I will say, increasingly, we've got landlords and property managers and some attorneys who will say, you know what, I have something that's coming to a head. Could we try mediation before we have to go to court? That, of course, is my greatest dream, right? If only culturally, if we just understood this was worth a shot before having to feel really adversarial, although realistically, usually, by the time people are so distraught about something, the idea of sitting down and talking about it doesn't feel compelling. Now, once they've been through mediation, they say, oh, I wish I'd known.
When you look at being a nonprofit and funding your efforts, talk about the different ways the community can help you.
Holy moly, it's tough. And, we all know we're heading into a recession. The need goes up and funding gets tighter. So, in terms of funding, if everyone in Tennessee would just donate $5 a month, we could serve every, working person in the state to solve their problems. I wish that if people are interested in getting involved in helping with fundraising efforts, if people, we always have volunteer opportunities to help with PR and marketing. And, I've kind of taken the budget we have, we're very lean, and I try to put as many of our resources into the programs, into actual services as humanly possible. And there's all kinds of other stuff we need help with, but I don't want to put the money into that. I use volunteers. And oh boy, anybody who wants to sort of to help spread this kind of healthy resolution, also a really important thing for our time, is very welcome to give me a call.
We'll carry that into how can we reach out? So website, your phone number, where do we go to learn more and to reach out and connect in?
Well, our website is nashvilleconflict.org. Very simple, nashvilleconflict.org. You can Google Nashville Conflict Resolution Center when we come right up. The email is just info@nashvilleconflict.org. And I will get those emails. I will get those emails.
Yep, and respond and make sure you
And
get people in
respond.
motion.
And
Absolutely.
it's easy for people who do have the means. We want everybody to know, if you don't have the means, we are a resource for you. If you have friends or family or co-workers who are getting kind of caught up in something, let them know we're here for them. And if you're someone who has the means to share this gift for other people, I would say it probably costs, if I look at our whole budget, it probably costs $400 to get 2 kids out of the juvenile justice system and help them be friends. It costs $400 for a case to take neighbors whose anger that's been triggered is putting them both at risk of eviction and turning them into good neighbors. $400 to get parents who don't live together to understand that they need to find ways to exchange their children without stress so their children don't carry it, right?
Yeah.
And, if you have it to give, it's a tremendous gift.
Well, Sara, greatly appreciate all you and your amazing team do. Thank you for coming on the show.
It was delightful. Thank you so much. I love what you all do.